Good morning. My name is Jacob Rangel. Today's date is April 29th, 2021. I'm a student at Liberty University, and today I'll be presenting my interpersonal communication plan. Quick overview of what we'll discuss today. We'll do a quick introduction of myself. We'll introduce interpersonal communication. We'll talk about my behavioral blend and background, communication barriers, some goals and strategies that I'm setting for myself, and some implementation steps, then a quick wrap up. So for myself, I am from El Paso, Texas. I'm currently a member of the Air Force. I'm stationed in Maine, and I have orders to go to Washington State. I'm also a member of the worship team, and I also do young adults ministry and men's discipleship at my church. Some of my favorite sports include football and MMA. My favorite food are tacos, burritos, and enchiladas. And after I retire in the military, which is it's in about 4 years, I do want to go into ministry. So, what is interpersonal communication? To define it, I dug through the text and pulled out some information for y'all. So from Schultz and Budzinski, human communication is about sharing our lives, friendship rather than loneliness, and flourishing community. Schultz and Budzinski also write that great interpersonal communication begins and ends with gratitude. Peterson defines the word communication from the root to commune, and it has 2 levels: sharing information and connecting with others. My personal definition of interpersonal communication is being able to talk and listen, being able to receive feedback and give feedback. And I believe that listening is the catalyst to becoming a very good communicator. Why is interpersonal communication important? France and Weichel write that CEOs of human service organizations seek to hire effective interpersonal communicators. McNatt also writes that organizations suggest that interpersonal skills such as oral communication are paramount when evaluating employees and especially potential new hires. Being great communicators also complements every area of our life, whether that's our personal life, our family life, our professional life, our ministry life. It just helps make everything better to the people around us. My behavioral blending background. Under this is expected of me, I was tagged a steady specialist. Under this is me, I was a competent influencing specialist. Some of the attributes to this are strong people skills, outgoing and reserved, and I like to influence and interact with people. Communication barriers. I identified 5 communication barriers from the textbooks that we were reading throughout the course. The first communication barrier is from Schultz and Budzinski, and I labeled it as listening with the intent to reply and not listening to understand. The second is from Peterson, the flat brain tango, which the battle you see in the flat brain tango is, are we going to be victors or friends? And are we going to let our insecurity drive us towards winning and control? The third communication barrier that I identified was either courtroom or collaboration. With the courtroom approach, you're being judgmental. With collaboration, you're seeking to work with others, whether that's in communication, to bring resolution. And that was also from Peterson as well too. Also, the fourth communication barrier is from Peterson as well too. And I label this one the need to win. A big thing I see sometimes when people get into arguments is they're not really listening to understand another person's perspective. They're just listening so they could argue and prove their point. That's it, the need to win. The fifth communication barrier I identified was social media. Social media is not bad, but Bassarella writes that sometimes the sacrifice for social media is that we rather connect with people halfway across the world through social media than the people that sit across from us in the dining room table. So my first goal for myself is I do want to implement the concept of the course into my own life, specifically the talker listener card that Peterson referred to. So this is going to be important to me because I tend to be chatty and talk a lot, and sometimes I find it hard for myself to listen. So I think the talker listener card is really going to help me separate the roles. Some of the strategies I also seek to implement the talker listener card is just talking to my coworkers, my family members, letting them know what I'm trying to do. But I also want to solicit feedback from them, just to ask them where my blind spots are as a communicator, where I'm maybe good and where I'm weak at. That way I know which specific attributes to work on. My second goal is I want to teach a communication course at our small group leaders training. Public speaking could be frightening for anyone, but I figure if I could learn this material and help other people grow in it, it's going to make for better ministry, better small groups, etc. And the training is going to be tailored towards the concept of Schultz and Baczynski, where they allude to flourishing and shalom in their book. But the principle behind it as well too is when I was doing martial arts, our instructors would always have us teach the new students. They would have us teach them the new moves, because they always told us when you teach somebody, you learn things differently, and you're trying to break it down so a new person could understand it. Therefore, you become more analytical of the material and you really start grasping it a lot better. Hence, that's why I want to teach the communication course at my church. The third goal and strategy that I have is to fast from social media and to limit my phone usage. It's a really big distractor for me, and I've caught myself texting. Somebody's talking to me and I'm completely zoned out. So I've identified it as an issue and it needs to stop. So I have deactivated my social media accounts, and I also look to put my phone away during lunch and dinner so I could pay closer attention to the people around me. And I do want to utilize texting as a tool to actually set up more face-to-face communication, set up more phone calls, maybe more FaceTime conversations rather than just texting all the time. Some of the implementation steps that I'll take. For the first goal, again, as I mentioned earlier, I do want to sit down with my family, friends, and supervisor and let them know what I'm doing, get them a talker listener card, and we'll get the ball rolling on all becoming better communicators. For the second goal with the presentation, the communication course I want to teach at my church, I do want to present that slideshow to my pastor, just so he could give me feedback to let me know if it's good, if it's bad, if it needs something, or if something needs to go away. And then for my third goal and strategy is I am going to be analyzing my usage analytics on my iPhone. And I've also given my social media passwords to like my sibling, and she like reset them. That way they could keep me accountable that I don't go use my social media accounts right now. Just to wrap things up, today we talked about interpersonal communication, what it is, why it's important. We talked about my behavioral blend and background. We also talked about communication barriers, goals and strategies, and some of the implementation steps that I'll be taking. So I do leave you guys with this. I believe God is a God of movement. God is a God of growth from glory to glory. So we see it in the life of David. David started off as a shepherd boy, and then he became a king of Israel. We see it in the life of Moses. Moses was a shepherd, and then he became one of the great leaders in Israel. We even see it in the disciples as well too, where God commissions them to go out and make disciples. So I believe God wants to grow us as communicators, as believers, so we could impact the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I also believe that God doesn't want us to be complacent. God doesn't want us to get comfortable. Therefore, that's why I believe we're all taking these courses. That's why we all want to make a difference in other people's lives. And in order to do that, sometimes we have to stretch ourselves, challenge ourselves to be better, to learn, and to grow. So thank you so much for your time. God bless you and have a good day.